IELTS Listening, version 51568. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Part 1 on page 2 of your question booklet.
Part 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a sales assistant in a camping equipment store and a customer who wants to order some items. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, North Star Camping Equipment. This is Emma.
Oh, hello. I've been looking through your online catalogue. The problem is, I haven't got time to come into the store this week. Is there any chance you can put some things aside for me?
Sure. Let me just get an order form. OK, so what's your surname, please?
Greenaway.
OK, Mr. Greenaway, I'll give you an order reference to write down.
OK.
It's a mixture of numbers and letters. The reference is 5174XCM.
Right, got that.
So, what were you looking for?
Well, we're going on a camping holiday. 2 adults, 2 children. So the first thing would be a tent. We need something family size. And I'd like to have a door at the front and one at the back.
OK, and anything else?
We all need sleeping bags as well.
So, what design do you need? Are you going to the mountains? Will there be snow?
Oh no, we're going to the beach. It'll be warm weather.
OK, so the design you need is what we call our summer sleeping bag. I'll put 4 aside for you.
Then we'll also need something to sleep on. Some camp beds, I guess.
Camp beds, yeah. Or these days, a lot of people are using, air mattresses that you blow up.
That sounds good. Easier to pack away.
And more comfortable.
But how do we blow them up?
You'll need a pump. I'll put one in for you. OK, now, what other things are you looking for?
Well, thinking about the cooking equipment, we need a stove.
There are all sorts of camping stoves. It depends what fuel you want it to run on. There's kerosene, charcoal.
Oh, that sounds too messy. I think we want the fuel to be gas if possible.
No problem. They're a bit more expensive than the other options.
That's okay.
Then do you need any pots, a frying pan, anything like that?
No, we'll bring those from home. What we need to think about is water. We'll need a large bottle for that.
All right. And how about knives and forks?
No, we'll be okay for those. But we'll need something to eat off, something unbreakable. Metal, maybe.
Yeah, that's best. So plates, then. A set of 4 in metal. Shall I add that to your order?
Yes, please.
They'll last a lifetime.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, I'm just thinking what else we might need. We've got raincoats, but we really need a couple of new torches. I'd rather not have plastic. The boys will just break them.
We've got some good rubber ones.
They'll be perfect.
I'll organise 2 of those. Then, I don't know, do you want some games for your children to play?
That's not a bad idea.
Even just a football or something.
We've already got a ball. Let's think. What we really need is something that young kids can use. Do you have a baseball set? They'd love that.
Sure, I'll put one in for you. Any other games?
No, I think that'll be enough. There's lots of things to do up there.
Where are you going, by the way?
Up to the Bay of Islands.
Oh, that's a lovely region.
In fact, that reminds me, we need an up-to-date map of the area. Do you sell those? Mine is very old.
No problem.
Great. Now, I've just thought, is there any chance you can deliver all these things?
Absolutely. What's the address?
It's 56 Taupo Street. I'll spell that for you. Taupo.
That's in Bayswater, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And what would the charge be on that?
The standard charge is $50. But hang on, your order will be over $500, so you get a discounted delivery charge of only $25.50.
Great. Now, my wife and I will still be at work this week, so we won't be at home.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1.
Part 2. You will hear the warden of a nature trail talking to a group of people who are interested in hiking on the trail. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning. I'm Susan Meyer, trail warden for the McFadden Hiking and Nature Trail. Let me tell you a bit about the trail. The trail is 25 miles long, running roughly east to west. To hike it, you may start at either end of the trail or in between. You can hike the whole length of the trail or just a couple of miles because there are 20 entry points along the trail, each connected to public roads by short paths. For hikers coming from Johnson City, there's a shuttle bus to each of the 2 endpoints every morning and evening. And 4 of the entry points have a free car park with television camera surveillance. At 1-mile intervals along the trail, there are rest stations providing picnic areas, water, toilets, and places where you can recharge your electronic devices. In response to a poll of walkers last year, we've recently installed kiosks at each rest station with clear, easy-to-follow maps and other trail information. There are several distinct sections of trail. The Red Rock Walk offers a superb opportunity to study a huge variety of vegetation along the way. There's lots to look at, though you can't see great distances. Birds are actually hard to spot. But with a pair of binoculars and at certain times of day, you may see some rare varieties. The Riverwalk comprises about 5 miles of trail winding along the bank of the Mulder River. Personally, I prefer this section of the trail in winter. The river does freeze over, and the snow can accumulate, but that doesn't always discourage visitors. Sometimes, though, if the weather conditions are really unsuitable, we might have to close this walk to the public. But often it can get crowded with hikers who've discovered the attraction of the area.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now let me tell you about the Halfway Hostel, located approximately midway along the trail. It has a range of facilities available to help make your walking experience memorable. Let me give you some information about the various facilities available there. Of course, there are beds in dormitories for use at a very reasonable $7 per person, weekdays or weekends. Unfortunately, we found that pre-booking beds just didn't work, so now we allocate them as people arrive, but we have extra cots and sleeping bags to help with any overflow. There are 2 family rooms accommodating 6 people each, with private bathrooms. They're $35 per room, and for them you will need to make arrangements ahead of time, as they're very popular, especially at the weekends. A popular facility that we've recently added is coin-operated washing machines for your clothes. You can get awfully wet and dirty if you're walking the trail in bad weather, and since we got these machines, you can put on clean gear when you set out in the morning. The hostel serves 2 meals a day, breakfast at $4 and dinner at $8. The same for adults and kids. There's always a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian option, depending on your preferences. We do ask you to give a hand with serving and cleaning up after meals. We have plenty of showers and unlimited hot water available, so you can have this luxury at no charge, and you can enjoy it as long as you like. Now, some people like to spend time on the trail on mountain bikes, and maybe take a bit of a rest from all that walking, and that's permitted as long as you observe basic safety rules. The hostel's in the process of creating a bike rental scheme, which should be up and running next year. So, if you think that...
That is the end of Part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 2. Business students called Janet and Michael discussing their research into the marketing of different kinds of shampoo. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Janet. How are you getting on with the shampoo marketing project?
Hi, Michael. It's interesting. I've read how shampoo marketing has developed over the last 100 years.
Oh, I didn't think we needed to do that.
True, but I'm interested anyway. Basically, what was once sold as an economical way of getting your hair clean has evolved into a beauty product.
Right.
And shampoo's interesting because it's a key influence in how we see ourselves. You've heard of bad hair days.
When your hair looks bad, maybe you didn't wash it and you feel bad about it. Heard of them, yes. Had one? No. Don't think they're real. Bad hair days? Come on.
Well, whatever you want to call them, that's not what research from Yale is suggesting. They're not just imagined, and both sexes are equally affected by them. And when they happen, people tend to perform and feel worse than usual.
Right. And I've been reading about shampoo ingredients, chemicals like sodium lauryl sulfate,
Methyl chloride. Many of the manufacturers tend to use these or others like them, though they keep it quiet.
Right. When it comes to the product packaging, they're strangely silent about it.
Another area it would be interesting to investigate is the labeling on bottles. Apparently, printing directly onto the bottles costs about 50% less than sticking a printed label on because it's a much quicker process. But manufacturers are lukewarm about this because it doesn't enhance the visual impact of the bottle. It comes across as a bit cheap.
We need to think about environmental issues. I was surprised how little recycled plastic goes into the bottles.
I think it's because light-colored plastic is more difficult to make from recycled stuff.
Yeah, but manufacturers can make their packaging more environmentally friendly just by making it less heavy. I'd like to find out whether some of them actually do when we do the research.
Yes, that's worth looking into. Thinking about you as a customer, what's important when choosing shampoo?
I'm always wary of special offers. When something's flagged as being half price, it rarely is, really. But if there's a make I've never seen before, I'm usually up for giving it a go, rather than sticking to one or two favorite brands all my life.
Interesting.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Shall we discuss some of these shampoo advertisements then? And try and identify what sort of psychological response each one is trying to get from the viewer?
Okay. What about Zing?
Well, it'd probably appeal equally to men and women. In the ad, we see this happy family, lovely home, healthy, good-looking children.
With clean hair.
Obviously, yes. And I think we're supposed to watch the ad and think, wow, if only my life was like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the advertisers want the viewers to almost wish they were the people in the ad.
Sure. I mean, that's very common in advertising.
But not universal. You know that ad for Splash shampoo that lasts about 5 minutes and where there's a story?
Oh, yes. The commercial about the couple? And all through the commercial, it's not clear if they're going to break up or stay together?
Exactly. Well, I think the marketing's been done very cleverly there. I don't think we're supposed to want to be the characters in the commercial, but we're supposed to get to know them a bit.
Yes, well, I thought the story was effective. You're glad to learn when it's over that they're obviously going to stay together. but I think the role of the shampoo in the story was a bit thin, to say the least.
Maybe. I suppose some manufacturers don't want to bore people with all the science.
Sure.
And then there's the Just Go advertisement.
Yes, that had lots of technical information about what the shampoo actually consists of. I suppose they want customers to feel confident that when they buy Just Go, they are at least making an informed decision.
Yes, they're buying something that will do the job they want it to.
That's it.
I've read one of the most effective shampoo ads in recent times was the one for Brozine.
Yes, but there's no commentary, just images of the shampoo and lots of clean hair. I suppose the effect, though, is very calming, with soft music and very peaceful imagery.
Yes, but at the end of the ad, we've hardly learned anything about the product, have we?
I suppose not. But isn't it interesting how much the ads for what are essentially very similar products vary so much?
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3.
Part 4. You will hear a lecturer giving a talk on how science may change in the future. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
In this final lecture of our course on the history of science, I would like to look to the future and tell you about some predictions that have been made about scientific developments. The content for my talk is based on some research in which 30 scientific leaders were invited to comment on the developments that they envisage as likely to come about in their own discipline within 50 years. After summarizing some of their most interesting contributions for you, I'll ask you to give me your opinions as to the likelihood of these changes occurring within this timescale. You may also like to suggest some other likely changes yourselves. So first, let's start with computer science, as this is clearly an area where there are bound to be dramatic developments, and, even more significantly perhaps, these developments are likely to impact on every other field of learning. The invention of computers represents an enormous leap forward in the field of human endeavor. It could indeed be considered as being as momentous a development as when our predecessors in caves first learnt to make fire and use it for all sorts of purposes. In the future, the computational revolution is certain to be generally recognized as a transformation as significant as, say, the Industrial Revolution. The computer scientists in the study I referred to felt that, in the coming decades, lives will be significantly enhanced by automated reasoning systems of different types. There was considerable agreement that people will increasingly perceive these computer systems as intelligent, Although many of these will be deployed behind the scenes, others will be in the foreground, serving in an elegant, often collaborative manner to help people do their jobs, to learn and teach, to reflect and remember, to plan and decide. Without going into further detail about this at this point, let's turn to what predictions psychologists had to make. Their key point was that psychological research would inevitably become increasingly varied. It would move into such areas as behavioral economics and social neuroscience. There is likely to be further expansion into domains with more practical relevance as increasing numbers of women become research scientists, so areas such as health, environment, family, and social identity will receive more attention. At the same time as they broaden their horizons, psychologists will also intensify their search to discover what exactly determines how we act. They will be assisted in this by imaging devices that will be inserted into the brain and provide a great deal of information about how it behaves. There should be some fascinating discoveries coming to light very soon. Another field that is currently undergoing enormous changes is that of genetics. It is not new to suggest that average life expectancy is likely to continue rising in most countries. However, today geneticists emphasize that it is vital that the increasing number of the elderly in society must take quality of life into account. So, how will genetics help this to happen? To start with, they hope to develop technologies that can sequence each person's genome extremely cheaply. This information about our DNA enables healthcare providers to predict our likelihood of suffering from any particular disease. From there on, it is a matter of weighing up various factors with a view to determining what can be done to minimize each individual's level of risk. With such information in hand, new treatments will be developed, and the current one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare will give way to a more personal approach. The final subject area that I wish to bring to your attention is that of zoology. Once again, computers and technology have a key role to play here. Experts comment specifically on the importance of satellites for future developments in this field. These enable people to explore the world from their homes, offices, and schools. It is now possible, for instance, to go online and see for yourself the abundant wildlife in one part of East Africa, and in the surrounding region, the harm people have done by destroying the forests, all supposedly in the name of development. Zoologists believe the breakthrough that lies ahead is how people act on such information as this. They hope that we will learn to connect our minds to our hearts and apply this knowledge to help protect our planet. They express a clear hope that a greater understanding of the consequences of human short-sightedness will make people anxious to rectify what we can before it is too late.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.